Good morning everyone. Today is the iPhone 16 Pro Max pickup day for me. I'm pretty excited about it. Although there's a downside to today, I do have to drive an hour to pick it up. When I was ordering it, it got sold out pretty quick at the Apple store that is near my place, which is a 10-15 minute drive. So I do have to drive an hour to pick it up. It is what it is, it's fun, everything happens for a reason. Pretty excited about this video. Thank you for being here and enjoy the episode. Before we jump into this first look, let me give you some context. I've been using Apple products for over a decade and watching iPhones evolve year after year. In my opinion, the 15 series was a huge success, except the battery life. But Apple usually is not about that one product. It's about what the ecosystem brings when it comes to productivity, room for creativity, and overall convenience. And in fact, I tried using the Samsung S24 Ultra throughout 2024. It is a solid phone, no doubt, but the video quality just wasn't hitting the mark for me. So I ended up coming back to my trusty iPhone 15 Pro. The S24 Ultra is more of a work tablet for me because of its size. Anyways, let's get back to what's gonna go down today. We're heading to the Apple Store in Waterloo, Ontario to pick up the new iPhone 16 Pro Max. Then I'm gonna head back home, unbox the 16 Pro Max, and I'll share my first thoughts. It's all about those initial reactions and the stuff that really stands out when you first check out a new device. I'll be honest, the excitement is building up as I roll up to the Apple Store. There is a good buzz in the air, and it's usually like that when a new tech drops. I gotta give a shout out to the staff at the Waterloo, Ontario Apple Store. I had pre-ordered my device. They made the process of grabbing my phone super easy. They're really nice and friendly down there. While I was there, I checked out some of the other 16 models. The regular 16 and 16 Plus looks good, but the Pro models, they're just calling my name, you know? One color that obviously caught my eye was a Desert Titanium, but I went with the natural titanium because it's a classic look, but the Desert Titanium, it's tempting for sure. Mission complete in under 15 minutes. I'm battling with time today. Alright, so I'm back home now. It's unboxing time. Cracking open the box, it's the usual Apple deal. Not much in there, just the essentials, but it's always a fun time opening up an Apple product. And there it is, the natural titanium 16 Pro Max. It actually looks spectacular, really classy. I'm happy with my choice, especially when it comes to the color. Honestly, the finish on the corners on the slim body looks really good. Picking up the iPhone 16 Pro Max, the first thing I noticed is the weight. I did a quick side-by-side with my iPhone 15 Pro. The 16 Pro Max is a bit heavier, but as usual, it feels solid, premium. The 16 Pro Max features a grade 5 titanium design that comes with a refined microblasted finish. What I like already is the thin borders on this device. I know it makes a small difference for viewing experience, but overall it looks really slick. I feel like I don't have to say much about the setup process. It's fast, easy, you really don't have to do anything. So while the syncing is happening, I'm gonna stare at the phone because it looks beautiful. For fun, I laid out a few phones: an iPhone 13 mini, the 15 Pro, the new 16 Pro Max, and the Samsung S24 Ultra. The difference in size between the iPhones is actually kinda wild, but the 16 Pro Max is a beast compared to the others. It's perfect if you're into big screens for creating content or just enjoying media. So you might be wondering, why did I go for the Pro Max over the other iPhone 16 models? Let me break it down for you. And then we'll talk about if this device has met my expectations as of my first impressions. First off, I'm big into having my phone as a B camera for my YouTube videos, and the Pro models are where it's at. The ProRes video is a game changer. You just can't get that on the regular 16 or 16 Plus. For what I do, it's a must-have. There's also the audio mix on the Pros, which I'm pretty excited to try out. Choosing between the iPhone 16 Pro and Pro Max came down to the size. After using the S24 Ultra, I kinda got used to having a bigger phone. The Pro Max's screen is awesome for consuming content, watching stuff, but it would also be great for editing on the go. And battery life is a big factor as well. The iPhone 16 Pro Max has a bigger battery life than the 16 Pro. At least that's what Apple claims. For someone like me, who's always on their phone for work and fun, the extra juice is clutch, especially on long shooting days. Yes, the iPhone 16 Pro Max costs more, but the 16 Pro requires you to upgrade to an at least 256 model in order to use the ProRes recording internally, while the Pro Max's base model comes with a 256 gig storage. When upgrading the 16 Pro to the 256, that brings the price up to a difference of only $100. And for me, the bigger screen, better battery, and overall experience definitely is worth it. Now I want to get into a first look at the camera on the 16 Pro Max. Good news for those who enjoy film recipes, you can now customize and build photography styles. These are essentially your modern day film recipes, and they're pretty fun if you don't want to get into deep editing with RAW Max. Now diving deeper into camera features. We have ProRes like last year. Let's quickly go over ProRes log and what it can do. Well, it's simple. It can turn your footage from this to this. I won't go deep into the color science in this video, but just like the 15 Pro, the ProRes is spectacular. With the iPhone 16 Pro Max, we're still getting a 10-bit color depth, and smoothly zooming into 2x, the phone is trying to keep a consistent look even when zooming in. It's a small detail, but it matters to me. And since I'm coming from the 15 Pro, I'm more excited about the 5x zoom now. And as we can see, the compression and the stabilization, it looks awesome. And adding on to the main camera on the iPhones, Apple also added a second 48 megapixel camera to the ultra wide lens. With this, you're able to capture a lot more detail and edit your images comfortably with ProRAW format. Here are a couple images captured with the ultra wide lens. If you want to get into photography and videography and you're looking for a budget camera, you can comfortably look into the iPhone 16 Pro or Pro Max models. These models will introduce you to some formats like RAW format for photo and ProRes log format for video. And these are professional file formats that enables you to edit photos and videos while retaining a lot of detail and keeping things more in your control. It's also a very good budget camera option because it gives you different focal lengths all in one body. As you guys know, I'm really into camera features of the iPhones, and I'm actually filming this section with the ProRes log format on the Pro Max. Now, one thing I noticed with the camera control button is when you actually, it's not a very easy button to press. What I feel like when I press it, there's like a slight move on the camera when taking a photo, which if you're trying to hold your camera stable, it may not be that useful. And while recording this, I'm actually going to test out the studio mix with the sound as well. Now, the audio mix is a big innovation. Audio is a big thing, especially with a portable device like this. It's really important to be able to record audio properly and, work with the audio afterwards, because there is no additional microphone to my setup right now. And by far the biggest upgrade to the iPhones this year has been the camera control button. Full transparency, I think this is going to get some time to get used to for me, as I typically find myself just using the normal way of taking photos or capturing videos, rather than using the camera control. Now, in my opinion, I don't think this is something people need to have fear of missing out about. It's cool, but horizontally, it's kind of weird to handle. Here, I'm gonna say it, I feel like design does not fit functionality with this button. And when we are talking about buttons, Action Button from last year was a lot more effective. In terms of what's inside the device, we do get the A18 Pro chip with 6-core GPU on the Pro Max. But I can't say my 15 Pro was slowing down or struggling by any means. I did notice a small glitch with 16 Pro Max.
Today. Video should be out pretty soon.
I'm pretty sure this will be fixed with new iOS updates. Instagram glitched here. When browsing through filters, the preview should be smooth and not restart playing the video. Also, the new iOS 18 is here. I do like that there's an option to customize your home screen for those who are into customization. It's also cool that you can adjust your icon sizes, like small and large. And personally, I'm probably gonna leave it as original or maybe stick to blackout mode. And iOS 18 comes with more features, like mixing in numbers to notes. This is great to have as it eliminates the use of Excel for basic day-to-day stuff like this. I will get into more iOS 18 updates like satellite texting when I do a full in-depth review of the 16 Pro Max. Now, the question you might be asking is, am I happy with the 16 Pro Max? And the answer is a complicated maybe. Yes, kind of. I don't know. One of the things that I really like about the device for now is the battery life. When I unboxed the phone, it came at about 85%. So I played around the settings, went out, took some photos. I briefly charged it in the car because I'm kind of used to charging my phone because I come from a 15 Pro with a bad battery life. So I charged the phone for about 15 to 20 minutes, which that wasn't a fast charger by any means. The battery has gone down to about mid 70s, which is pretty good. Now that kind of justifies my reason to upgrade for the Pro Max. I wanted a phone with a better battery life that was able to do the same things as 15 Pro. So along with the battery life, I really like the fact that I now have a larger phone. And along with having a larger phone with slimmer borders on the screen, you get a bigger screen real estate, which is awesome. I also like the fact that I have a 5x zoom as well because I didn't have that on the 15 Pro. So as for my first impression, it's such a breeze to have the 5x zoom. And also, what I love is the audio mix. Sound is a very tricky thing, and having the control to do different filters and different kind of settings for your audio right on this device is amazing. I'm gonna be using that a ton. What I don't love as a person who has a photography background, I don't love the camera control button at all. So firstly, I don't like where it's placed on the 16 Pro Max models. I have average size hands, and reaching it when filming horizontally is kind of unnatural. It's not that camera feel. And I think usability wise, throughout the day, I feel like it became a kind of a chore to use that rather than just pulling out my phone, throwing on the camera, and just taking photos like how a cell phone was intended to be. Touch to focus, all that stuff. I like the fact that a smartphone camera is a lot easier and more convenient to use. If I have to touch around a touchpad and try to get, the right zoom, the aperture, for me it kind of defeats the purpose of having something that's so accessible and just filming and taking photos right away. And mind you, these are my first impressions, so I actually may like the camera control as I get used to it. But as for my first time using it, I don't love it. And also another thing that I don't need is the photographic styles. I like to apply my own edits into photos, and that is why I go with the Pro models so that I can actually capture photos using Pro Max format. So personally, I'm not too interested in baking in edits on the phone. I rather have the freedom to edit the photos the way I like so that I can actually make it more custom to me. Now, I don't know if you would agree with me, but I feel like despite a really good Apple event, I feel like there's less of a hype for the new iPhones this year. And I think that could be because the Apple Intelligence will be coming late. Like December, what it seems like. So I think people are gonna think, let's just see what it's gonna be in a few months before we make that buying decision. So yeah, I think that's one thing that is kind of killing the hype for this device right now. It was really fun picking up the device and filming everything all in one day today. It's a great device that we can continue to talk about throughout the year and compare to some other devices out there on the market. So that being said, there will be a lot of comparison videos, especially with the 15, the Samsung. There will be a lot of comparisons coming your way. So as for today, that is it for me today. As always, thank you so much for watching. It has been a pleasure. I'll see you in the next video. Welcome to a day in the life with the iPhone 16 Pro Max. We are starting bright and early at 6 a.m. I've got a packed day ahead, including a special creator event hosted by Best Buy in Toronto. Let's get into it. As I'm getting ready at home, let's talk about this beast of a phone. Coming from the iPhone 15 Pro, the 16 Pro Max is noticeably bigger at its 6.9-inch display. I've gotta say, it's a bit of a challenge to slip it into my pocket, especially for my morning walks, like today. Honestly, even if it's for 15 minutes, I try to get a morning walk in every day. I'll be honest with you guys, for daily use, the Pro Max isn't the most practical. It's actually kind of too big for comfortable one-handed use. Sure, there is a one-handed mode, but it's not the best implementation out there. But man, this natural titanium color, it looks absolutely stunning. I was actually on the verge of getting the Desert Titanium, Although the desert titanium looks really nice, I think the natural titanium suits me a lot better. I think this is a better option for everyday, and honestly, I case my phones all the time, so the color doesn't really matter a whole lot for me. But if you want to show off the color of your phone while keeping your phone protected, there is an option out there for you. Alright, time to hit the road to Toronto. Usually it's an hour drive, but with today's traffic, it took nearly 2 hours. And here's a challenge for me. I'm not charging the phone until I get home this evening. It's gonna be a busy day, so let's see if the battery can keep up. Just getting into the city, I have to find a parking that is close to the event space. At this point, there's still an hour to the event. I had a lightweight jacket zipped up to protect my white t-shirt. I'm pretty bad with white, so just changing into a light cardigan. It's a bit chilly today. Grabbing a coffee and a small bite to eat, and then I'm gonna head over to the event space. And like usual, I'm paying with Apple Pay. There's about 40 minutes until the event. I'm kinda running ahead of the schedule today. I kinda gave myself extra time for the traffic. I have to say, again, size-wise, the 16 Pro Max is gonna take some time to get used to. Of course, I'm also using my Apple Watch Ultra for quick maps and always tracking steps as well. I do want to cover the Apple Watch Ultra on a separate episode. If you have any questions, do let me know. Now, I'm at the Best Buy Creator event, and I've got to say, a huge shout out to Best Buy for putting this together. They're always at the forefront when it comes to latest and greatest tech. While the 16 Pro Max is the star of the show today, I couldn't help but be impressed by some of the Asus laptops on display. Of course, I had to take a look at the ProArt P16. What a capable laptop this is, and it promises a lot for AI as well. There's also the PZ13 that is a 2-in-1 laptop with a detachable screen. The PZ13 actually runs on the Snapdragon X series processor. Now back to our iPhone 16 Pro Max. Throughout the event, I found myself reaching for it quite often to capture footage. I only brought my Sony FX30 with a 16mm lens to keep things simple, so iPhone really came in clutch for those tighter shots. I know I mentioned before, but I've gotta say it again, ProRes Log, which has been around since the iPhone 15 series, is a game changer. The footage blends seamlessly with what I'm getting from my cinema camera. Like, this is unbelievable. And a new feature that we need to talk about is the audio mix. Have a listen to it.
So, it's kind of loud in here. I wonder how this... But there's no way I can actually isolate this with an actual microphone. So, we'll see. I wonder what this sounds like. Can we mix the audio on this? I don't know, is it too loud?
Wrapping up the event, there was a lot to see here. There was a cool panel that we got to listen to about AI and met some cool creators as well. Best Buy is sending us home with a bunch of tech that I will probably do videos about.
Okay, that's a nice watch.
I know we talked about the video capabilities, but what about the photography capabilities of this phone? Especially with the wide-angle lens now featuring a high-quality 48 megapixel sensor. And let me tell you, it's not about megapixel count. A good sensor is crucial. Think of it like this. High megapixels without a good sensor is like putting a 150 horsepower engine on a Porsche. It just doesn't do justice. So the megapixel count and the sensor quality goes hand to hand. Before we talk about the mainly controversial camera control button, let's dive into my camera settings for both video and photo. Have a look at these. I'll walk you through my video settings, which are quite straightforward. I choose to film at 4K 24 frames. On the bottom settings, I specifically prefer to have the HDR setting off, as I think it looks a little too artificial on smartphones. When it comes to formats, I have the most compatible under camera capture. ProRAW is on with ProRAW Max format, and under video capture I have the Apple ProRes with log ticked on. There's also photographic styles that I don't use. I prefer to use RAW mode to capture photos and then edit them my way in Lightroom. But honestly, if I wasn't into editing photos, I would really appreciate this feature. This is cool. Now let's get into the camera control button. You know how we refer to a great design as it looks like Apple made it. This camera control button / function does not feel like Apple made it. Or we say, it just works about Apple products. The camera button does not just work. Horizontally, it's hard to reach. Vertically, the screen is still easier to control. and the button functions are kind of weird to get used to. Instead of this button, if photography is so important, why not add more manual camera controls on the app itself? Action button that was introduced last year was a lot more functional and easy to use. Even though I don't like the camera control button right now, I think Apple is doing a lot for those who choose the Pro models for creative features. I can only see it getting better. Like the audio mix is a huge underrated win this year, and things are looking great for those who do want to learn photography and videography, or for those that need a tool that is compact and will get the job done. As we're wrapping up the day and grabbing a bite to eat, let's talk about day-to-day performance. For tasks like social media, emails, or photo editing, this phone is an absolute beast. The new A18 Pro chip is probably more powerful than last year's model, but to be honest, for my use case, I haven't noticed any performance issues since the iPhone 11. I think the Apple system is the most easy to use out there. Now, is it the best? That is questionable, but the 16 Pro Max is the new lead of my Apple ecosystem. Let's talk about the display for a moment. The Pro models support 120Hz refresh rate, which honestly should be the bare minimum when it comes to any phone these days. The peak brightness is also impressive at 2000 nits. On an average sunny day, it's been more than bright enough, no complaints there. At 4:30 p.m., I'm sitting at 48% battery life. I will give you a last battery check at the end of the video. I would have loved to talk about Apple Intelligence that this phone was made for, but as you know, it's not here. Instead, what makes this phone feel new is the iOS 18. I'm gonna wrap up the day in the city, head back home, and then we'll get into my favorite and hidden features of the iOS 18. Another 2 hours on the road, Toronto traffic. Love it. You know what they say about Toronto. Toronto is the city where you're an hour away from Toronto even while you're in Toronto. Does that make sense? What a day today was. It was a very motivating and inspiring day put together by Best Buy today. There were a lot of things that I personally took away, especially when it comes to AI and the future of content creation. But yeah, I'm very, very motivated. Big shout out to everyone at Best Buy Canada for putting this event together. It was really fun. Now, this event kind of drained my battery, I'll be honest with you. I'm sitting at 20% at 8:40 p.m. I left home at 7 a.m. today, did not charge at all, took some photos, took a lot of videos in ProRes. I exchanged some footage with Alex. I was on my phone today, taking notes, looking at things. It was an active day on my phone. Now, 20% coming from a 15 Pro is pretty good. If you are coming from a 15 Pro Max, let's say, this won't be a big difference for you, but coming from a 15 Pro like myself, it shows. It really shows the difference. So I am happy with the battery life of the Pro Max. For now, iOS updates, heavier applications, less storage space, these are all things that affect the battery life of a phone in the long run. So I'd be curious to know where it goes within the next couple months. I'm gonna go charge up the phone, I need some power, and then we'll dive into other topics about the 16 Pro Max. I almost said 15. Giving the phone a quick boost, then I do want to mention some things about the iOS 18. Listen, I know, the Android users are making fun of Apple users for getting customizable homepage in 2024. But congrats everyone, we can now change the tint of our icons and have more freedom on our homepage. Now, I do like that we're able to change the icon sizes from this menu rather than going into accessibility settings. I personally will keep my homepage as the original Apple look rather than changing the colors. That's just me. Next thing, I do like that the apps are now organized under an apps menu. This keeps things very organized. I like that. As I'm walking through the menus, I will bring attention to the fact that we now have RCS messaging. You can take this on under the messages settings, but I'm pretty confident that it comes on with the iOS 18 now. Another big thing that Apple has brought in with the iOS 18 is the widgets. If the app of your choice comes with a widget, you can now turn them into widgets. That's awesome, right? I'm hoping that widget availability will expand in the future, as I think there are still some apps that need to show up. But right now, there's quite a bit available. For example, I'll turn my Govi light bar into a widget. And now with this, I don't have to shout at Google at 2 a.m. in the morning or look through the app to turn off the light. It's just on my homepage. Now let's talk about some hidden features and features that are not so talked about. My favorite and most satisfying feature of the iOS 18 is the new flashlight. It's so cool and useful. You can now expand and narrow down the light beam to your liking and needs. When recording a video, you can now pause recording and continue to record if you want to combine the recording into one clip. This is great for those who want to record retakes. With this, you can just combine everything into one clip and not end up with a bunch of other clips that you need to delete after. For those who get motion sickness, there's reduced motion mode. To access it, type in motion into your settings and you'll see it. And did you know that you can actually set vocal shortcuts as well? Find it in your settings and set it up. You don't need to ask Siri simple things like this.
Turn on the flashlight.
We left. It's been a couple years, I miss you to death.
Thank you for watching my day in the life with the iPhone 16 Pro Max. These videos are a big effort to make, and seeing your support as a result makes it so worth it. Thank you Moth for sponsoring a part of this episode. Thank you Best Buy for bringing me over to your creator event. And lastly, the biggest thank you to those who continue to watch my videos every week. Thank you so much for watching. It has been a pleasure. I'll see you in the next one. This is the iPhone 16 Pro Max. Upgraded battery, better camera, and AI features that are on the way. But is it still exciting to use this device after a month? Good morning. This is a day in the life with the iPhone 16 Pro Max. In this episode, I'm going to talk about my experience with this device over the past 1 month. I'm up at 7 a.m. this morning. I'm also going to be doing a battery test throughout the video. Shortly, I'm going to plug my phone off the charger and see if this device can handle a long day of use.
As the days keep rolling on, we're living in hell again. But I still hold you in my heart when these days have been.
The device that I will be referencing a lot in this video is the iPhone 15 Pro, since that is what I upgraded from. I mean, can I even say it's been an upgrade? The iPhone 16 Pro Max, while impressive in many aspects, presents some challenges when it comes to portability. Its size, while being beneficial for many tasks, can be cumbersome for everyday carry. I found that it's not particularly comfortable to keep in a pocket. I often carry a side bag specifically to accommodate the phone. The handling experience of the 16 Pro Max is largely dependent on the size of your hands. For those with smaller hands, it may not be the most comfortable phone to carry around. But just to be clear, I'm not complaining about the size, as this device sells for 6.9 inches. This is just my take using it day to day. Because the 16 Pro Max is a boxier design, I think it just makes it harder to handle in general. Coming from the iPhone 15 Pro, the jump to this large screen is immediately noticeable, and in many ways, pretty advantageous. The 6.9-inch display elevates the content consumption by quite a bit. It makes everything from streaming videos to browsing photos a lot more immersive. For gaming enthusiasts, the combination of a large screen and a buttery smooth 120Hz refresh rate creates a really nice mobile gaming experience. Additionally, for productivity-focused users, the extra screen real estate is pretty valuable. Regardless of the positives of a large screen size, the 6.9-inch display does present some usability challenges, particularly when it comes to one-handed operation. Apple's solution to this issue is the reachability mode, which falls pretty short of expectations. Instead of offering a truly optimized one-handed mode, reachability mode shifts the screen content downward, displaying only about 60% of the screen. This approach feels very inefficient. Honestly, not sure what the design motivation was here. I'm gonna head out to a local trail. The fall colors are starting to show, so I think it may be good to say a few things about the camera on the 16 Pro Max, and actually even compare the footage quality to my cinema camera. Just a 10-minute drive, I think this place is perfect to talk about the camera. The 15 Pro series was revolutionary when it came to the camera department. And when it comes to a good camera, there are more important things like sensor quality over popular gimmick words like triple-digit megapixel counts. The 16 Pro Max, on the other hand, significantly improved the wide-angle sensor, and I was actually hoping for at least a 10x zoom option this year. The fact that 16 Pro versus 16 Pro Max has the same zoom options is a bummer. And this is the camera control button, or the camera launch button for me. I've really not been using this button at all other than launching the camera app. I still do not like this button, like I said on my very first 16 Pro Max video. I think it represents everything Apple is not about. It's not simple, it's not user friendly. But anyways, overall camera experience on the 16 Pro Max is phenomenal, and the first thing I look at on a smartphone is how good the camera is. I shot some really cool photos today. Fall is probably every photographer's dream time. I'm just sitting, relaxing, and having a little edit session here. And for the longest time, I use Adobe Lightroom to edit all my photos. And here are some before and afters. If you are interested, you can actually purchase my preset pack. If you like my visual style, you can get the same look with my preset pack. The link will be in the description. And here's a footage comparison between iPhone 16 Pro Max versus Sony FX30 cinema camera, both color graded similarly. Second part of the day will be heading over to the grocery store and then heading over to Best Buy to pick up a new keyboard. And at 10:30 a.m. we're sitting at 86% battery. Recording ProRes, taking photos, surprisingly didn't drop the battery a whole lot. I found a keyboard that I like the feeling of. Let's give this a try. Alright, so got the keyboard. This is supposed to sound really nice. Really helpful stuff at Best Buy as usual. And there's something cool that you may want to know. If you get something from Best Buy, within 30 days you can get a price adjustment for it in case it goes on sale. For example, Black Friday is coming, so you can actually get a discount for what you bought before, which is really cool. I mean, tech can really get expensive and anything really helps. And this portion is not sponsored by Best Buy, just had a really good experience in there.
Wake me up when this is all over.
So I just got home, it's 2:40 p.m. and the phone is at 64%. I plugged it off the charger around 8 o'clock this morning, and since then the phone has been somewhat active. I still have things to do on the phone, I have things to talk about, so the screen has to be on. So we'll see how it goes. This year the iPhone release has been kind of different. For most users, upgrading from the 15 series, the new A18 Pro chip will not mean much. Yes, it's fast, it's the flagship processor, but last year's A17 Pro was and is still very capable. Camera features on the other hand, there has been nothing extremely exciting except a new sensor on the ultra-wide camera. When we compare it to the 15 series, there was the groundbreaking ProRes video mode, while this year, the only addition to video is the audio mix, which is cool. For most cases, the Pro Series users can actually process their audio on an editing software anyways. iOS 18 on the other side, although there are new cool additions like RCS messaging, overall iOS 18 is nothing groundbreaking as well. One thing that is exciting and promising about the 16 series and the powerful 16 Pro Max in particular is the release of Apple Intelligence. The 16 series was built with AI in mind, so we'll see where things will go in a few months. With the new year, there will be new phone releases. After 10 plus years with Apple, I'm open to look at other options. I'm gonna be looking at options that allow me to be involved in a more flexible ecosystem. Speaking of change and things being stale with Apple, here I have the Asus ProArt P16. This laptop is sent to me for review from Asus Canada. Asus Canada, thank you so much. You see, I'm a content creator that obviously edits a lot of footage, a lot of photos. But here's the thing, there's a fun side to me as well. And I want a game. And in specific, I really want to play Flight Simulator. This laptop here is very capable. I'm just wrapping up a few videos on my MacBook. After those are completed, I'm gonna switch out my setup to the Asus ProArt P16. I've been using the laptop for the past 2 days and I'm very impressed. And I've been gaming with it too, and this is supposed to be a creator first laptop. It's very capable. Before I close off today, there is one more thing I have to do today, and then we'll do a final battery check. Right, so I finished off with the soccer session. The battery is sitting at 30% at 11:30 p.m. Not bad at all, comparing it to what I'm coming from, which is the iPhone 15 Pro. I think the battery life of this device is something we have to revisit after the AI stuff comes out. That's something that's really gonna push the performance levels of this phone, and then we'll see what the battery level is going to be at. But so far, it's pretty good. Really happy with the battery life of the 16 Pro Max.
But in time you will see you
thank you for watching my day with the iPhone 16 Pro Max. This was a take on my first month with the device. I will definitely keep you posted with videos like these. But that is it for me today. Thank you for being here. As always, it has been a pleasure. I'll see you in the next one.
Tempted. I was tempted. Tempted by your smile. I was tempted. And for a little while.
Welcome to my 3-month review of the iPhone 16 Pro Max. This latest iPhone has generated quite a bit of discussion in the tech community, with particularly notable amount of criticism coming from longtime Apple users and enthusiasts. Many have questioned whether this new iteration brings enough meaningful improvements to justify an upgrade, while others have debated the value proposition of its features. In this video, I want to share my detailed experience using it day to day and explain my own initial skepticism about this release. I'll be completely transparent about why I wasn't particularly excited when it was first announced. And more importantly, I'll tell you whether my initial hesitation was justified or if the phone managed to change my perspective after 3 months of real-world use. Me and Alex, along with some other friends, drove 6 hours north of Toronto to capture some early winter content. We're staying in this really inspiring cabin, creating, having a Nerf war, and just enjoying the vibes. This video was super fun to make. Enjoy the episode. Last year, when the iPhone 15 series, the predecessor of the 16 series, was launched, I was really excited for the future. It offered so much, and after a year of enjoying the 15 Pro and pushing it to its full creative capacity, I upgraded to the iPhone 16 Pro Max. Through countless photos, videos, daily interactions, this device has become a big part of my creative flow and personal life. Now, while being very neutral about the 16 series during the Apple event and at pre-release, I got more excited as the launch day came by. I was actually excited to pick up this new device that would give me a bigger display, potentially a better battery life, and an interesting camera control function, and more on the camera control button later. So I ordered my iPhone 16 Pro Max in the natural titanium color and with a storage capacity of 256 gigs. It has been a whole 3 months. While I did not travel and put the 16 Pro Max through different weather conditions or use in extreme busy on-the-go scenarios, I still use this device as my daily smartphone through this time. And let me just catch you up on the full story. First week of using the device was fun. The bigger display actually made a difference coming from a 15 Pro. I do like the audio mix feature at this point, and I'm trying to figure out how the camera control function works. Month 1. I got used to the 6.9-inch display. At this point, I don't appreciate the size as much as my first week. But at this point, I'm appreciating the battery life of the 16 Pro Max. I have not been using the audio mix at all because I can easily do the audio post-processing in Final Cut anyways. And I'm still trying to get used to the camera control function. Month 2. I gave up on the camera control function. And I'm hoping for an update that would allow us to link that button to something else, like anything. I'd rather open the calculator app using this button. Battery life is great, and I'm appreciating the sensor of the ultra wide lens. And now to month 3. So when we talk about the upgrade from the 15 models, and specifically 15 Pro versus 16 Pro models, we can see that the upgrades have been very incremental. The only thing that I've personally been excited about when it comes to upgrading, it really is the promised better battery life. In my experience with battery life, it has improved. But we have to keep in mind, I'm coming from a 15 Pro model, which is a smaller device compared to the 16 Pro Max. So, watching the Apple event, there was nothing too exciting about the 16 models. Now, there were 2 things that was introduced with the 16 models, and that was the camera control and a device generally very performance focused because of Apple Intelligence. The one upgrade on the 16 Pro series was the camera control, which would allow you to take more control of camera features like zoom, aperture, and it's almost supposed to simulate a real camera feeling. And by almost, I mean not even close. It's not easy to use, which I've said this before, but it's not like Apple. You know, living in Canada, a winter season day out, I don't see myself fiddling around with a touch camera control in order to dial those perfect settings. It's easier just to touch the screen. I mean, wasn't that the brand strategy of Apple, making devices that are easy to use? And there is one setting that should be on the camera settings menu that only appears in the camera control menu. That is the aperture option. For the iPhone's case, it's called the depth. Like, this is what I mean. Even the term is simplified to make it easier for consumers. It's supposed to be catered towards everyone that has access to this phone. So I'm not sure why Apple is still letting us fiddle through this feature. And I think you can tell by now, this is my least favorite feature on the 16 series. The second upgrade that seemed massive was the A18 chip that was designed with Apple Intelligence in mind. We were also told that Apple Intelligence features would sprinkle throughout the year. And as for the 3 months, these are some of the Apple Intelligence features that stand out when it actually works. Here's what I mean. I sometimes run into this issue where Apple Intelligence does not work, and I have the official iOS 18.2 version. I'm not even on beta, but from time to time, all the Apple Intelligence features just disappear from the phone. The menu is there, but you have to restart your phone a few times to get it back to working. Imagine waiting 3 extra months to get a feature that was marketed with the phone. Like, wasn't the phone built for Apple Intelligence? Of course, with any new release, there will be bugs. That's fine. But this isn't a simple bug. The whole product is not there. It's a big disappointment, but for the sake of this video, let's just talk about the times that it actually works. There's the unique group notifications feature. This is actually a feature that I really appreciate. I try to minimize my time on my phone, so any improvement that helps me look at my phone a little less is highly appreciated by me. In my experience, it has been doing a good job grouping things accurately, and summaries are actually accurate as well. I know some people are seeing some funny summaries, but it's not the case with me. I actually really like this feature. And then we have the visual intelligence mode. That is kind of just straightforward. There's nothing really unique about it. And lastly, this is something that has been pretty trendy, especially with some of the AI features releasing from last year's devices from other companies. And I feel like this here is nowhere close to being done. And yes, I'm talking about the object removal from photos. I did try it out with the beta version and now the fully released version. It does a pretty good job detecting objects, but the cleaning part is the problem. The way I'm seeing it is that it more so does not analyze the scene very well. In my experiment here with this specific photo, I can see that generative AI in Photoshop performs a lot better. Even though this photo is a little complicated to clean up, I think phone AI cleaning tool still has a long way to go. Let's dive into the physical features of the 16 Pro Max. Like I mentioned, I have the natural titanium, and the Grade 5 titanium body is awesome. It is durable, but keep in mind I do keep my devices cased. I've dropped it a few times with no damage to the body. The device itself is 227 grams, and one of the biggest reasons as to why I got the Pro Max other than the extended battery is the large display. And the display is actually 91.4% screen to body ratio. Overall, the build quality of the body is spectacular. What's not spectacular about the body is the reachability of the screen. Because the phone is so cornered, it is difficult to handle, and the phone itself is not so comfortable to use one-handed. And the one-handed mode, or the reachability as Apple calls it, has to be revamped in my opinion. You're basically using 50% of the system interface before it just resets itself. Like, how do you go back home without exiting reachability mode? This mode is odd. The S24 Ultra has a fantastic one-handed mode, which I covered in my past videos. With a large device like this, we need proper reachability features. It honestly can't be very difficult to develop, and it would take away consumer irritation towards the device. With that, let's move to the 6.9-inch display of the 16 Pro Max. It features a brilliant looking Super Retina XDR OLED display with a peak HDR brightness of 2000 nits outdoors and 1600 nits peak HDI brightness. For typical use, it has a maximum brightness of 1000 nits. You know, since we have not seen a summer season with the device, I can't speak much about how visible it is under harsh sunlight, but it is very comfortable under normal levels of sunlight on an average bright day. And the optional 1 nit brightness is awesome for nighttime use. The display color profile is actually something that is very important to me. It supports P3 wide color gamut. This is one of the things that I really like about Apple. They're very consistent about color accuracy. I do not game on my phone, but I use the display to watch content quite a bit. It's just easy and bright enough to just set up quickly and start watching podcasts or just catch up on some soccer highlights. When looking into the spec sheet of a smartphone, the first thing I pay attention to is the camera quality. It's not the megapixel count or the AI features with a camera. I solely look at sensor quality. I capture photos and test sensor depth in edits, and I often capture videos through on-the-go scenarios. If, for example, there's a vlog element in my videos, they're often captured with the 16 Pro Max. Because it's just a phone, it's more socially acceptable. And despite the amount of things I dislike about this device, I like the camera. It's the only aspect that kept me with iPhone as my primary device in 2024. So this is my 3 months with the iPhone 16 Pro Max. At release, I was skeptic about lack of newness, and 3 months later, I can say that I'm genuinely bored of the device. It's a large device with a beautiful screen, but it has the worst one-handed mode in the market. It's the best chip Apple has come up with, but it's full of performance issues. AI was a big thing, and it came out 3 months later, but it just lacks innovation. On a positive note, I'll mention that battery life has been very good with this device, and that is as of month 3. There is one department that this device is still in front of competition for my needs, and that is the video mode and specifically ProRes log format. And we'll see if Apple will lose that race in the next few months. Thank you for watching my 3 months review of the iPhone 16 Pro Max. This video and this adventure was super fun. I hope you enjoyed the episode. As always, thank you for watching. It has been a pleasure. I'll see you in the next one.
But now the only flowers are flowers that I've been laying down on your grave. Still can't let you go.
This is the iPhone 16 Pro Max, and this has been the most controversial phone release, including the events that is still happening post-release. An iPhone 16 Pro series could mean a few different things to you. A device that didn't keep promises with all the AI stuff, or a device with the performance potential that was built for AI features, but you don't use AI, so who cares? Now you're taking advantage of a powerful chipset. Or lastly, it may be the device that is making you leave an entire ecosystem, and that is the Apple ecosystem. In this episode, we'll dive into my take on the iPhone 16 Pro Max after 6 months. And of course, I'll tell you about my take on the AI controversy. Welcome and enjoy the episode. Before picking up the iPhone 16 Pro Max at release day, I was super excited for the large display as I was coming from a 15 Pro and the S24 Ultra, which was the device that convinced me to switch to a larger display, starting with the 16 Pro Max. The first few months were great. I tried my best to keep my cases light, that way I didn't have to add to the size and weight of the device. Fast forward to 6 months later, the phone is just not comfortable. At least it feels like that to me, especially compared to the S25 Ultra. Listen, this video is not a comparison video, but after getting used to the S25 Ultra, I'm just not comfortable with the 16 Pro Max, especially with one-handed control. It could be the weight distribution of the device or the bold camera bump, not sure, but to me it offers really bad one-handed usability. I wish I just stuck with the 16 Pro rather than the 16 Pro Max at this point. And sure, the larger display is great, but looking at the size of the device and one-handed mode here, I think I said it in all of my other iPhone videos, but I'll say it again. This right here is the worst one-handed mode ever, or reachability as Apple calls it. When it comes to the build quality, the titanium body does not disappoint. It's very premium and it almost feels like one whole piece rather than having different components coming together to make up a phone. I mean, I don't love the camera bump, like I said, but other than that, it's an elegant design and it's still an exciting device to look at after the first 6 months. The buttons also are holding up strong, and there's one button that I barely use, you can probably guess. It's the camera control button. It's a useless button in my world, and it's just so bad that to this day we still did not get the option to program this button to another useful function, like the action button. Camera button was one of the big 3 things that was so hyped out about the 16 series. I only use it to launch my camera. I do not use it to capture photos or videos because I simply think touching the display is massively easier. And hey, this is simply my opinion, but the camera control function was innovative and it actually promises a lot of things for the future. Remember that this is a button that you can physically press, touch for slight adjustments, and slide through options, so it supports multiple actions all in one. This is great. My question remains the same. What if Apple didn't waste this design feature by locking it to camera only? If we were to talk about predictions, I think the camera control button is here to stay, but I really think Apple will allow for reassigning its functions. Other than the camera control, 2 other things that was big was A18 Pro chip and the Apple Intelligence, and these 2 go hand in hand. There are 2 ways to talk about the A18 Pro chip. One way is that you saw what this processor was capable of, and you did not really care for Apple Intelligence from the beginning, so it not being fully released or even the features that released being full of flaws did not bother you. But deep down you're still disappointed with Apple. Second scenario, you like AI. The number on the chipset is just a number as long as you get Apple Intelligence features. So 6 months in, you're upset because A17 chip was good enough, and now you have Apple Intelligence that you're confused about that does not work half of the time and it's missing features. Many of us were and are still confused as to which Apple Intelligence feature was released with iOS updates. My experience with Apple Intelligence has been a big meh. Many of AI features that are out there in the market is just not cutting it for me anyways. It's a lot of copy and paste, and almost none of the AI features solves a real problem in my life. Generally speaking, most of the AI that is out there is a bit of a chore to use. But in terms of performance, the A18 Pro chip is supposed to be the best one Apple has created. That's what you would think. Well, it technically is, but as of iOS 18.4, the iOS has been so buggy for me. I kind of miss iOS 17. In my experience, I'm facing a lot of bugs that I've never seen in an iPhone before, and yes, the A18 chip is capable, but how good is the software? Sure, you can get heavy tasks done, but you'll randomly see an alarm clock glitch, like you're seeing right now. Again, the chipset and the operating system needs to be talked about together. Unfortunately, in my opinion, I think the iOS 18 is kind of sabotaging the A18 chipset. And as for my case, the A18 Pro chipset specifically. The iPhone 16 Pro Max continues Apple's tradition of delivering one of the best mobile camera systems in the game. While other areas of the device might not seem like a massive leap forward, the camera department remains a highlight and it's powerful and reliable. For content creators, most modern flagship phones will get the job done, and the iPhone 16 Pro is no exception. It delivers consistency, ease of use, and a post-processing pipeline that just works. Whether you're shooting in ProRAW, capturing a log video, or just snapping a quick photo for your stories, you can trust that the 16 Pro Max will get the job done. After the 6 months, I can say that I'm continuously impressed with the camera department of this device. Something else that I'm really impressed about is the battery life on the 16 Pro Max. I know I said I hated the size on the Pro Max, but I love it for battery purposes. That slight 27 versus 33 hours of video playback time makes the difference. This device has done really good in terms of battery life when I'm on the go, and I barely have to recharge throughout the day. So really the size sucks, but the good battery makes me remember why I got the Pro Max. It also goes to show how optimized the A18 Pro chipset is for battery, as well as the iOS 18. I guess that's one of the few things that the new iOS does well. The weather recently has been really interesting. So last week it was 18 degrees, we were out with t-shirts. Now it's super cold, back to like 2 degrees. Next week it's supposed to warm up again, and then it's supposed to get cold again.
But you're pulling me closer. Oh, God.
So I think it generally has been a very challenging year for the iPhone series. The 16 series promised a few things, and it kind of delivered on none, really. And when we talk about competition, I think the competition is way ahead when it comes to the software. The One UI 7 has been phenomenal on the Samsung side. iOS 18 has been full of bugs, personally speaking, and some of the things that I've read and saw online. Apple Intelligence, not there, kind of there, but even the features that are there are not to Apple standards, where it just consistently works, whereas now it just consistently does not work. Whereas again, Galaxy AI has taken the AI level to the next level. It also has a better variety of features where you can take advantage of whatever you wish with AI. I'm not a big AI person there, but there are few things that I wish that Apple Intelligence actually carried. And the thing that really matters to me is the camera department. And when it comes to the camera department, competitors sort of caught up to the game here. Apple still has some advantages on the camera department. It's just nothing that would let us disregard the inconsistencies with the software and Apple Intelligence that was promised. I, for the longest time, said iPhone has a lot of the camera features that I need. So I'm gonna ignore the other things about the phone, because the only thing that I really need for my work and making content is a good camera. And honestly, with the competitors being all caught up now, I can easily ignore the fact that camera is the only thing that stands out on the iPhones. Now I can actually look at the things that are lacking, such as rest of the phone. With the iPhone 17 leaks slowly sprinkling in, I'm not too excited personally, as I can for the most part say that even though there are great strengths of the 16 Pro Max, in my opinion it has been a bit of a disappointment coming from the 15 series. Well, that's it for this episode. If you've been using the iPhone 16 series like myself, do let me know your opinions in the comments section. I have switched around my primary device quite a bit this year, and it's gonna look like that for the rest of the year. And I'm also in the process of walking out of the Apple ecosystem, so I'm pretty sure that says a lot at this point. Thank you so much for watching. As always, it has been a pleasure. I'll see you in the next one. I really thought my 6-month review of the iPhone 16 Pro Max was going to be my last long-term review until the 17 series, but it turns out we got more to talk about. Enjoy the episode. Even though I was excited for the 16 Pro Max after using the 15 Pro, but trying other phones over the past 8 months and coming back to the 16 Pro Max to test out its current state, I realized something. If this was my first iPhone ever, it wouldn't be the device that convinced me to stick with iPhones. And this video is all about that. I'm currently using the iOS 18 4.1, and iOS 18 releases have included some bugs and glitches since the release day, and it's to a point where I don't even bother testing out betas anymore, because each full release used to run like a beta anyways. Now 8 months later, it's hard to come across glitches. There are still some, which is hard to run into during a recording session of course, but what I'm generally experiencing is the software that is not snappy as iOS 17. The animations feel slow, haptics don't feel immersive, which is not a new thing, and the worst part is that I didn't really feel like this on my iPhone 15 Pro with iOS 17. There of course used to be problems with iOS 17 too, just like any other operating system in the world. On the Apple side though, iOS 18 just seems to amplify these problems. Despite having the powerful A18 Pro chip, which was marketed as Apple's most capable processor to date, the software optimization problems are holding back device's true potential. Even simple tasks, even though it's a lot better now at the 8 months point, occasionally result in unexpected glitches, something I rarely experienced on previous iPhones. There are also UI inconsistencies too, like control center bugs, touch input delays, which we will get into in a bit. It's like the hardware and software spoke two different languages at launch, and it still does not feel complete after 8 months. And for a company that built its name on seamless integration, this is kind of shocking. And the major talking point about iOS 18 was going to be the start of Apple Intelligence. And without much of Apple Intelligence, the update barely looks new visually, plus the rollout was super rough because of Apple Intelligence. And speaking of Apple Intelligence, do we even know what features are out without Googling at this point? I'm so checked out when it comes to using AI on my iPhone. And honestly, the features that are out, they're okay. The whole shift towards AI seems to have come at the cost of Siri's usefulness, which is wild. As Apple tried to become more intelligent, Siri became less intelligent. And there is a weird irony in that. Apple Intelligence was supposed to be this next big thing, but unfortunately, there's no real standout experience yet, and it feels like Apple is just still trying to figure out what their version of AI looks like. Meanwhile, I often find myself using Gemini. In my opinion, it just works better for quick tasks. And here's the thing, it's been nearly 8 months since Apple Intelligence started making headlines, and there's still not much to talk about. No transformative features, no major leap. Again, for a company that usually leads with polished and confident products, this rollout, no doubt, just feels very unfinished, and it's a fact that it's unfinished actually. Personally, AI on a smartphone is not a huge selling point for me. If Apple never talked about AI, I still would have bought this phone and made it my primary device for months. But I just rather not have a product or service that is unfinished or massively delayed. But hey, talking about Apple Intelligence is kind of like giving easy negative points to Apple. I've actually got another problem instead. Now, like I said, a lot has happened since the release of the 16 series for me. I used quite a bit of Samsung devices, and I came back to the 16 Pro Max for a few months to test out the iOS updates and make content. But each time I found it a little difficult to stick to the Pro Max for a long time. And it has not been because of iOS 18 or Apple Intelligence. It instead was because of the display. And this display looks gorgeous, although a little reflective. It supports 120Hz, very accurate colors, but it's not about what's on the spec sheet. For a few months, I genuinely thought that I was losing my mind. I kept mistyping words constantly. At one point, I started questioning whether I'd just forgotten how to type. But no, turns out it wasn't me. It was the display all along. If you are using an iPhone 16 Pro Max, you probably already know, just forget about hitting Q or P on the keyboard reliably. The edges of the display are straight up unresponsive at times. Of course, when you're hitting the center of the letter, no delays there, but when you're trying to type fast with the size of the 16 Pro Max, you often naturally hit those corners. As you can see here, I'm touching very small part of the bezels and rest of my finger lands on the display. But because it's in the corner area, it's not very responsive. I've even stopped using screen protectors because the display already struggles to register touches in certain areas, and it's not just about typing. This will even be the case in regular use. There's a noticeable input delay and inconsistent touch response. Now, technically this is the same display panel as previous models, so it might be a software issue, but it also feels like the execution of these thinner bezels wasn't thought through properly. Whether it's a hardware tolerance issue or a calibration problem, something is just clearly off. And it might sound like I'm nitpicking here, but you'd be surprised as to how much you actually tap those corners in a day. And this issue, of course, is more noticeable on the Pro Max because it's a bigger phone. And just as a discussion point here, this may not be an iOS 18 issue, it may just be a hardware issue because it has never been addressed for the last 8 months. Aside of this, 16 Pro Max has a spectacular battery life. When I first got the 16 Pro Max, the first thing I noticed was the battery performance. It turned out to be a great all-day battery device for my use case. 8 months later, I'm still very happy with the battery, and while out and about, I can easily count on the battery performance with no problems. I know a lot of you did complain about certain iOS updates draining your battery life, but personally, I didn't face a lot of that. Currently, I can get 10 to 12 hours out of my device without charging, but personally, I often find a way to top up the battery, whether it's in the car or I have a small power bank with me if I'm not going to have access to my car for a long time. I know this might be a subjective take, but I find the 16 Pro Max pretty uncomfortable to use, especially one-handed. While the device weighs in at 227 grams, which isn't outrageous on paper, the real issue lies in the weight distribution. It's top-heavy due to the massive camera module that's apparently gonna get even bigger in the 17s, and you can really feel the imbalance when you're holding it for extended periods of time, or trying to navigate with one hand. Speaking of one-handed use, Apple's one-handed Muse is arguably one of the weakest out there. It feels more like a workaround than thoughtfully integrated feature, especially when compared to one-handed modes in Android. Then there's the design. It's this awkward in-between state. The edges aren't fully flat, nor they're properly rounded. There's this subtle curve where the sides meet the display, which might look sleek, but in daily use it doesn't add much comfort. In fact, it often digs into your palm during prolonged use. I wish Apple just committed to a single design direction, either a truly flat slab or a fully contoured body. Another point is the thickness. If the device was more slimmer, I think it would go a long way making it less brick-like and more refined in hand. And maybe that's something Apple is exploring for the next generation. We'll see what September brings. I know I've been complaining about the size of the Pro Max for a while, but when I got the Pro Max, the price actually made sense. So I thought about getting the Pro version, which in order to record ProRes log internally, I had to get the 256 gig version, which the difference of getting the Pro Max, which is a bigger phone and a bigger battery, at 256 gig cost me about $150 extra. So at the time, it was kind of a no-brainer to get the Pro Max. But now, if I was to go back and make this purchase again, I would definitely go for the Pro. Speaking of ProRes video recording, 16 Pro Max camera department never failed me. I live for that ProRes log recording and great photography capabilities. Camera department is the most consistent side of iPhones in my opinion. That being said, in my opinion, camera control button is the worst thing about the camera department. I do not use it at all, it slows you down when you're trying to create, and my opinions on this never changed since the first day I unboxed this phone. MagSafe is also huge. If you're not a case type of person, you can always find a MagSafe accessory and just slap it onto your device. You don't need a magnetic ring, and the right accessories can really come in clutch when needed. If I was to give you a snapshot of my 8 months with the iPhone 16 Pro Max, it would be this. Some of the cons are, it was sort of a pain to get a version of iOS 18 without constant bugs. Although there are still some bugs, but they are more rare to see. But overall, I do not find the iOS 18 snappy, and because of that, this phone sometimes feels like a chore to use. And an issue that seems to be a calibration issue is the unresponsive edges of the display. This makes the phone extremely annoying to use, especially when trying to type. I would love to know in the comments if you also noticed this issue. And finally, this is personal, but I'd give it a 5 out of 10 for physical comfort when using the device. I'm really interested to know how large the 17 Pro Max will be this year. And of course, there are some positives. I've had a very consistent battery performance out of this device, and sometimes with a little help from accessories. And also the camera department has been a pleasure to use for all the times I've captured with the device. So there you have it. This was a look at the iPhone 16 Pro Max after 8 months. At this point, I hope we can see some drastic changes in the 17 series. Thank you so much for watching. As always, it has been a pleasure. I'll see you in the next one. In just a few weeks, it'll mark a full year since I got my hands on the iPhone 16 Pro Max. I remember the launch day like it was yesterday. I was there all excited, got my phone, and walked out. This was not a review or a loaner unit from Apple. I paid for this device with my hard-earned money. And because it has been a strange year for the 16s, it kind of hurts. This video is a 1-year review and a wrap up to the 16 Pro Max, and a bit of a note to Apple. Enjoy the episode. Before creating tech content, I used to upgrade my iPhones every other year. I went from the 13 mini to the iPhone 15 Pro and now to 16 Pro Max. My favorite out of these three devices is the 15 Pro due to its size, and it being the device that introduced great creative features like ProRes Log. Since this video isn't just a device review, I do have some thoughts and I like to speak my mind out to Apple. I'll dig right in. I think Apple has lost or is very close to losing the ecosystem game. 17 series needs to bring something that gets us all excited again. With the 16 series, there was an attempt to bring some newness into the product. The camera control, for example, is a great idea, bringing you the ability to touch, press, swipe one control button. But instead of turning this into a mappable button, Apple brought it as a camera control and never talked about it after the launch. This, in a way, has a great, deeper meaning. In the early days of modern technology, consumers didn't fully know what they wanted. Whatever tech companies introduced, we accepted and adapted to. But it's 2025. Now expectations have evolved. We have a much clearer sense of what we value in our devices. And if you argue otherwise, competitors are pushing the boundaries with genuine innovative products. Simply making a product that just works is no longer enough. And in the age where content travels instantly, people are constantly reminded of what their own device lacks. And to be quite transparent, the 16 Pro Max lacks in quite a few things. Myself, like most people, have really been roasting Apple for Apple Intelligence. Listen, I don't want easy points for this video. Yes, Apple Intelligence never came. We all know that. And it's to a point where the situation went to court. And yes, Siri is dumb and annoying to use. Yes, those are negative things that we all know. But what was the point of upgrading to Pro Series for most people that didn't care about AI? What was really in it for us? The display? I said this in my last video too. If you really want it, you can really use this display as a mirror. There isn't enough nits you can crank up to see the display on a sunny day. It's really reflective, especially compared to the competitors. If you used any of the Samsung Galaxies, it's hard to use an iPhone even after using a base S25. To solve the reflection problem, I've been using a matte screen protector on my 16 Pro Max. I've got this Matcha brand protector here. They tend to crack easily but really improve on the display experience. I'll link it in the description. In theory, everything is there on the iPhone Pro Series display. 120Hz, 460 ppi, really good HDR, spectacular color accuracy, and even 1 nit brightness for nighttime scrollers. But there is a deeper problem on your iPhone 16 Pro Max display. This one is kind of hard to prove, but there's a lot of people facing the same issue. Touch sensitivity on the 16 Pro Max is bad. I've covered this on a previous video. If you're mistyping a lot or feel like there's a bit of a lag, it's not you. It's the 16 Pro Max. And most likely, it's not a software issue because 15 series running the same software does not have this issue. Apple, I hope you're acknowledging this and doing something about it on the 17 series. But through my time with the 16 Pro Max, this was super annoying to a point where I wanted to leave Apple, and still do in a way. iPhones mostly felt premium, and the 16 Pro Max is no exception. 16 Pro Max right here is gonna be the last of its kind for its titanium build. As you know, 17 series will be bringing the aluminum body. The titanium body feels good. I do like the natural titanium color a lot, and I mostly use this device with a clear case because of that and never regretted going with the natural titanium. My handling experience with the Pro Max has been poor. I do not like the handling at all, and I find this device quite heavy for what it can do. I wish the corners were flat rather than have that slight round, but this is a very personal experience, and someone with much larger hands could enjoy this device. But on the other hand, aluminum will feel lighter on the 17, so there's a bonus for the future. Aside from feeling premium, I can actually say that after a year, this phone has held up really well. I always mostly use a phone case with my devices, but there has been quite a few months where I just took the case off the phone just to kind of slim it down a little bit because I didn't find it super ergonomic to handle. And now that I look at this device, I'm just seeing a few micro scratches, nothing on the body really. Mind you, I think I dropped this device maybe a couple times, so I've had a lucky year, let's say. And when it comes to the display, I've always used a screen protector on this device, especially this matte protector lately. I mean, like with how reflective it is, how can I not? It looks perfect. I mean, I wish it just came like this, right? But really happy how physically this phone has held up over the past year. I mean, technically, it hasn't been a year. It's going to be a year in the next few weeks, but I don't really see this phone getting into a self-destruction mode anytime soon, right? I hope. These days, it's kind of impossible to find poor performing cameras, and this sort of applies to smartphone cameras as well. 16 Pro series does have an advantage on some areas when it comes to the creative side. A good photo is subjective. What I look for in a smartphone camera is a sensor that gives me a file that I can play around with. So what I'm really looking for is the data depth within an image. I always shoot in RAW mode, and I edit my photos using my presets. I could care less about how sharp the corners of an image are or how vibrant the colors are because I edit my stuff anyways. 16 Pro Max never disappointed me on the camera side. It's also great with videos. I literally could use this to make a movie. It's scary good. Now, if we are upgrading to a Pro Max model, I think we should at least be getting 10 times zoom. I hate that it's only 5 times. The value of upgrading is non-existent on the camera department because of that. I've used other devices that had the 10x zoom and they were the same size as the 16 Pro Max. To me, essentially, it only makes sense to sacrifice for the bigger size if you're gonna get a further zoom reach. But all of this aside, there's also the camera control button that Apple just abandoned. I've never used it to shoot photos. I sometimes use it to launch the camera app. This is an awesome concept that sort of limited itself by only being able to launch camera apps. Action button, for example, is great. This would have been a great action button too, but better. But unfortunately, it's sort of been abandoned since the release. The beta versions of the iOS 26 has been a fresh breath of air for the 16 Pro Max, at least in my opinion. The iOS 18 was a disaster from many angles, but the iOS 26, despite being a beta version, it so far has been very good to run instead of the 18. I find the iOS 26 to be snappier, less glitchy, and overall I think I feel a little bit more pleasure using it. Currently, the clear glass look on the theme can be quite buggy, especially with the widgets. I'm sure all the bugs associated with the widgets will be solved once the official version comes out. For now, I am using the default look rather than the clear liquid glass look. So really nothing to report here as of yet. We do have to wait and see how the official release will perform in time. Now, it was a busy year for me. Took my 16 Pro Max on most of my trips. I've done many battery tests in real world, and one thing that never failed me is the battery life on this device. Currently, my battery capacity is at 97%, not a bad 1 year with the battery. For the next couple years, I can see the 16 Pro Max still be an all-day battery type of device. Of course, to extend the battery life of your device, please optimize your charging. To sum up my year with the 16 Pro Max, as for the hardware, I didn't have critical issues with overheating. Even though I didn't love the handling and the weight distribution of the Pro Max, the natural titanium was nice to have. As for the display, I'm not happy with how reflective it is, and I refuse to brag about 120Hz on an expensive flagship device. To add to the display, I did have issues with touch sensitivity, which drove me nuts for most of the year. Over at the camera department, as always, great stuff, but it would be nice to have a reason to upgrade from Pro to Pro Max. Perhaps 10x zoom would be nice. And over at the software, I think iOS 18 was glitchy, slower than usual feeling due to animations. And we've had to use that for a good 7 to 8 months until the developer beta of the iOS 26 came out. Anyways, despite how bad the iOS 18 was, I think it was okay for battery optimization, and to this day, battery life on the Pro Max is still great. Apple Intelligence and Siri, on the other hand, has been bad. We know this. Apple, I think, really damaged their branding there. But hey, we've spent a year talking about this, and I don't know what to say. There's enough memes about it. Now, the question is, do I regret upgrading to the 16 Pro Max from the 15 Pro? Yes, I do, and I don't at the same time. I don't because I made content about the phone and this is what I do for a living. And on the other hand, I regret it because it has been an expensive downgrade from the 15 Pro. I don't know, does that say enough about this quote-unquote upgrade? I hope you enjoyed the episode. I'm excited for the 17 series, just like you, and I can't wait to no longer use the 16 Pro Max. Thank you for watching. As always, it has been a pleasure. I'll see you in the next one.